It's been very difficult to go deeper into 47 and say, how could you get emotions to someone that is so cold and so calculated?
I think the appeal of a character like Hitman is he's really a blank canvas. There isn't a huge personality behind him, even on a personal story such as Absolution. He's still very much an empty vessel for the player to put himself into.
Well, we definitely have some legacy there. We have some long-time fans that expect some certain things from the franchise as well that we're delivering on. And but on top of that, the bar is moving all the time, so everything needs to be more epic in a way. And we really focused on that. You know, compared to the early installments in our game, this is the way most cinematic, epic experience we've done. The most ambitious project in IO, definitely.
I think with all the Hitman games, you sort of enter this universe, and the rules of that universe aren't necessarily the ones that you live in, and you can sort of acclimatize yourself to that and live vicariously through them.
We started up a very small concept team on Hitman 5, as it was called back then. We were told basically that everything was allowed. We kind of did 4 games in a row that was very much an evolution of the same game, you could say. They got kind of beefed up more and more, and kind of features got added, but still the general approach to the game was the same. So we wanted to see how much could we kind of tear apart everything and kind of rebuild all the features, the mechanics, and the way that we did level design and storytelling to something that was an improvement of what we had.
The very start of the project is very hectic and creative. It's a wonderful time to be a concept artist because it's all about crazy ideas. We don't really know where we want to go yet. The story hasn't been defined. Everything is in flux.
For us on the Absolution team, it was kind of a new approach that we had quite a lot of time and we had quite a lot of effort going into the very early stages with the story. So for Absolution, we wanted a more personal story, and we wanted it to revolve around 47 himself and him driving the story forward. We have this central character to the franchise, which is called Diana Burnwood, which has been with him through all the games. And the first thing that we do is to tell 47 that he has to go and assassinate Diana. She's been betraying their agency, and she has broken out. She's taken this girl called Victoria that is very important to the agency, and 47 has to go and kill her.
47?
So this is the first mission that you encounter as a player. Naturally, there's a lot of questions from the hardcore fans and the community to, okay, this is a very strange step for us to be taking, but it's also, if you look at it from a dramatic point of view, it's incredibly hard to take a character that basically has no emotions in what he does and say, how do we make this character have any kind of emotional response to something? And taking something that is very close to him and kind of exposing that is a way for us to also shake him up a little bit.
It's a personal journey for Agent 47, and you really get closer to him and you really learn more about him.
We made some choices when it came to setting that we wanted kind of a dense, complex city to work from. That was kind of our main setting, that then it kind of changed around the world, but ended up on Chicago because there is a lot of Art Deco and very interesting structures within the city. There's a lot of history in their architecture, and it kind of appealed to us.
Every level starts with a brainstorm where you have an idea, would it be fanciful to have a level take place in a factory or in a high-class mansion or in a derelict library like we did in the E3 level. And of course all these levels have to follow the storyline, but it always starts out with like an idea. And we make a really high concept of it, which is just an inspiration for everyone that is going to work on it. They see it, oh, it's this type of style, it's this type of props that are going to populate the level, and it's maybe this type of time of the day with the lighting. This is what we're going for. Once that is done, the level designers actually start building a level out of just mock-up geometry. Mock-up geometry doesn't look good, but it has a purpose that it just tells you where your covers are, where your walls are, basically how the level is. Once they are done, and they are confident that they have proven the gameplay on the level with the patrols and the kills and accidents that could happen on the level, they give the mock-up geometry back to the concept department that starts to paint over and create the style of the level and specifying all the small assets that are present on the level. After we are done, the 3D artist can take over and start populating it. And at the same time also the character artist can take the character concepts and create the assets that will be on the level.
Wait.
I heard you. You want me to snatch some chick?
Man's gonna call you, tell you how to find her. She's in hiding somewhere.
You got that? That's a lot of hassle for one chick. She must be special.
One of the things that we really wanted with Absolution was to make some characters that were more, they had more personality and they felt more, maybe not real as such because they're kind of outlandish in their own ways, but at least they feel like some kind of character types.
Look, you get me 2.5.
There's a large number of, you could say, main characters that are more or less targets through the game, and then there's other characters coming in kind of from the side, becoming targets as 47 goes through the story. Some characters, they really bring up emotions in people, and I think this is one of the kind of the central points for us with Absolution, is also to get some emotions into the game, into not only the main characters, but also the NPCs in the game.
Oyster sauce, brown rice, broccoli.
I think this game excels in letting you be like the fly on the wall. Like you just walk into a room and then these people are doing their thing. So if you don't disturb them, they will actually have their little conversation.
Telling these people's stories is also a part of the replayability and the kind of richness of the game, that it should feel like you come into a new level and there's all this stuff happening. There's all these characters that can't wait to tell you their stories and kind of open up the world for you.
You want me to snoop around the agency? Were you crazy? Yeah, you crazy.
We have some clear restraints about disguises. That's a very central part of the gameplay in Absolution. So we have to communicate very clearly that 47 can take this person's clothes on and it has actually a meaning for the level. His normal look is very classic with the black suit, the red tie and silver borders and the fiber wire, and that's not something that we want to tamper with too much. Where we push the limits is on the disguises that he can take on during the course of the game. Some of them will be more classic, some of them are much more crazy.
When it comes to inspiration, we're very inspired by movies in general. I think there is a big love for movies on the team. So taking those elements and using them within the levels, you can say, consciously or not, is something that we're constantly doing. We have these kind of what we call the driving montages when he goes from Chicago out into Hope, which is inspired by classic road movies. And it's giving 47 kind of a different side. It's adding to his character, that he's doing things that you haven't really seen him doing before.
Can you talk? You're not gonna believe this. Tyler asked me to go to California.
The script has gone through a lot of revisions since I've been on the project. When I first came on, it was written mostly in-house and by one of our main dialogue writers, and a lot of scenes were being rewritten by Tor himself. Our creative director stepped in at one point and wasn't happy with some of the scenes, so we ended up farming the script out, and it came back and it matched the gameplay, and we were really happy with the new version of the script. We got to LA to shoot it. We broke it down into the different scenes, of course, and got ready for shooting. And once we were in LA and we had the actors on set reading the dialogue, we also found a lot of moments that we could plus with with just a little bit of interplay between the characters and build the scenes up a bit more than just straight off the page. Then once coming back, so many changes in the gameplay and some levels being cut and some new ones being added. The story had to follow along, so some story moments got changed and revised and some got cut completely.
The animators could change quite a bit by changing like arm movements and lip sync and stuff like that, but sometimes we had to redo like full movements, and then of course we'd go down in the basement to the mocap studio and then re-mocap stuff. And there's also like brand new scenes that came up that would be redone.
I think all manner of changes are very normal for the gaming industry. It is oftentimes a bit of a trial and error process because you have an idea, but until you can really see the idea on screen, it's difficult to say, yes, that's exactly what I had in mind. I think the amount of changes that we had on this project are not normal for a typical project, but of the complexity of a Hitman game, I think it's a sort of par for the course, because it is a very challenging game to make. We're not just making a shooter and we're not just making a stealth game. There's a lot of moving parts to account for, and it's a very tricky balancing act.
We have some really talented guys that just like cranking out page after page after page of really, really fun dialogue. And we all have this sad feeling that, you know, it's only going to be maybe 10% that will really get all of it, because this is made for the hardcore Hitman people that actually do play it that way. Because, I mean, if you just run in, start shooting a gun, they'll all react to that and they'll start shooting back. You'll never hear what stories they have to tell. So I think that's one of the layers, is you can play this game, you know, come in and say, you know, I'm just going to run through it with a gun and just shoot my way through everything, and you will have this experience. And you can say, you know, I actually want to spend some time here, and then you get this experience, and you can say, I want to spend a lot of time here, and there'll be like, you know, massive experience waiting in terms of what you can do, all the ways you can get to the target, and the stories you'll hear.
You should transfer the goddamn Sorganash. We need to make sure we got everything secure.
Area secure. No
We've been trying to kind of pin down what kind of story it is, and you can say in one way it's kind of like a road movie, in the way that 47 as a character, he is kind of charging through the different scenarios, and he is just doing whatever he sees fit to take him to the next place and to find out whatever information he needs to do or whoever he needs to deal with in that location.
We've spent a lot of time developing the story and tying it very close to gameplay, and taking the user on a journey.
The whole audio direction, and you can say the dramatic score part of the game, it's been a very strong focus from the very beginning, because we knew with a game that is so, you can say, open-ended as a Hitman game is, the player can always do whatever he wants. He can go any direction and kind of take on the game in any way that he wants. We have to have a very dynamic, you can say, music system that supports a dramatic experience no matter how you want to play the game.
The inspirations for the Hitman Absolution game has definitely been the bigger Hollywood movie scores. We wanted to keep some of the epicness from the past installment of the Hitman franchise, and then we wanted to give it some added grit. So we both have the polished Hollywood musical score, and we have the darker, tense, aggressiveness. And those two worlds, when they collide, it supports Hitman Absolution in its best.
Get away now!
One of the things that really inspired me with the music production was the fact that it was a very diverse setting, which meant that it needed some diverse music.
We are working together with a very good sound team here in IO, and they are, they're really good at understanding how to fit every little bit of music element with the AI. So you obviously have a main score, but they are very capable at breaking that score down in different tracks that are either very ambient, like the AI, or action-based or fast-paced tracks, and they really understand how to blend these seamlessly.
The music is tying into all the different AI states in the game, so whatever the AI is doing, if the NPCs get agitated, the music will follow them organically. And the more joining in, the more the music will kind of ramp up. And on the other way, when they kind of stand down into ambient, they will kind of go back into a more, like a less suspenseful, more kind of ambient kind of state.
It's not just the music that changes based on Hitman's interactions. We have some very advanced audio setups, so we really wanted to work hard on the interactivity. What's important here is that the music and the audio will support the game best way possible. We love the low end of the frequency spectrum because that's one of the areas that is representing something mean. So we pay a lot of attention to actually the whole frequency spectrum within the whole audio production. So it's not just a lot of audio getting thrown in there. We know that the dialogue is sitting in the mid-range of the frequency spectrum, and we sort of try to design the music and the rest of the sound effects design around that.
Come on in here. Amos, Clayton, that better not be you again. I'm going to tell your mama you're here.
So the way we use the dialogue is really to base the sound effects, the sound design, and the music around the dialogue. Because you can say a dialogue line in many ways.
Come on, fucker, work, come on.
The way we handle dialogue this time around has been quite different compared to the other Hitman games, in that we have had the opportunity to work with some really great voice talent from America. And instead of just doing a lot of ADR recordings, we were actually lucky enough to have them in the same room while they were recording the motion capture. We also recorded the actual voices. And that has brought a new level to our believability in the dialogue and the overall storytelling for our game.
Hot sauce is a big hit, huh? I think the guys have been spiking their beers with it.
Dialogue is the most important piece of audio in the game. It's not music, it's not sound effects. If you don't believe in the dialogue, and if it doesn't tell the story correctly, you don't have a game.
For years, Diana Burnwood was my sole handler at the agency. She supplied information and secrecy, and I sold perfection. Together, we had trust.
The ambition with the cutscenes is to make every single scene interesting enough in itself as something that the player would want to see. You can watch them, you get like an introduction to the level, you understand the characters a little bit more, and then you go on with the game. In a game like Hitman, where there is so much gameplay, there's so much within the game mechanics to challenge the players, the cutscenes also becomes a break between those kind of challenging gameplay moments.
Damn it! Mr. Dexter is not someone that you want to mess with.
I think cutscenes are getting better and better. They're actually much better at using the language of cinematography and of like movie storytelling and making compelling stories and characters. And this is just a natural evolution in games to lean on what we've learned from cinema.
We're actually treating it like a classical movie. We're trying always to have like these, really slow dolly moves and shooting from outside the doorway into the room and trying to have this like subtle treatment of it, and it actually works really well. We have like an awesome team of animators and environment artists and lighting and comping and the composers and sound designers. I mean, a lot of people are working really hard on making them.
All right, what is it worth to you?
Name your price.
If they convey a sense of motivation to play the game, and we've taken a lot of care to add that to Hitman Absolution. It's all well and good to be given a task to go and you have to take out a certain target, but if you can apply an emotional reason or a really solid motivation to do that, it just makes it more enjoyable and a lot more fun to play.
Now listen to the city. If anyone mentions the girl, you know what to do.
I'll call you.
Oh, no. You do that.
We started out wanting to do motion capture and then do voice acting separately and kind of combine this as a classical way, at least for us to produce cutscenes. But we were allowed to hire real professional Hollywood actors and do the performance capture, which is basically doing motion capture, facial capture, and voice at the same time.
Mr. Travis, you know this is my prayer time.
The basics of motion capture is that we have a series of cameras placed around a room, and they record optically these little markers that are placed on actors. And it triangulates the data in the space and records movement, and we cover the actors with all of these, and we can tell where their arms and legs and torsos are in space. And that gets applied to the skeletons of the characters. Where performance capture comes in is similar, but on a far more subtle level. We had a helmet-mounted camera and used that as reference for keyframing. If you have to marker up the face, there's a lot of micro movements that get captured, and that goes through a similar process, but it usually requires far more cameras to pick up the smaller dots and the smaller ranges of movement. Also with ours, it required a soundproof studio, which Giant had where we shot, so we could have the actors' voices synced up with their movement and just get a more believable performance out of them. That was really important to us. And then we can get usable in-game audio while they're performing.
We found him.
Okay, people, listen up. I'm giving a green light on this operation. I want 47's head on a platter in front of me ASAP!
Sir, don't you think that our priority is on reacquiring the girl right now?
No, Jade. First, we neutralize the rogue element that started this mess. He'll know where she is. Trust me. We get 47. We get the girl. We can't afford to fuck this up!
The casting was a decision that was made through a group of us. So it was myself, Tor, our game director, Tom, our PR manager, and Jamie Mortellaro, who works with Technicolor, who helped us through all of this with audio recording and setting up the mocap shoots. Some of the actors that we used, Powers Booth for Travis, Marcia Thomason, Isabel Furman, Larry Cedar, Vivica Fox.
Mary, Mother of God, we confidently undertake to rebuke the attacks of deceits of the devil.
We had 2 utility actors, we called them, on set, and they haven't been brought up a lot in the background, I mean, because they're not well-known names in acting. It was Shane Stevens and Colleen Foy. Even the actors on set were just in awe of them. They were incredible, and they were, couldn't have done it without them.
It was quite interesting because I feel that a lot of these actors actually feel like this is like a new unexplored territory. They can play around more because it won't have their likeness, like it will just be some character they're playing. So they feel, I think they're more liberated and have more fun with it because it's never going to be, you know, this is my face on that character.
Many of them have never done performance capture before. So they would see the screen where they would see a live feed of their characters from the game. All of a sudden they were the character that was written from the script that you've been working with. So that was quite an amazing experience, not just for us, but for them as well.
Mercy! Mercy! No! Wait! Except I'm supposed to say Travis is obsessed with you.
But I got one more thought.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few more. A couple more arm.
Me?
Okay. Yeah, just a couple more of those.
The actors did have a lot of good suggestions, and they would say, this feels like out of character, and we'd be like, that's true, and we had a lot back and forth. So we spent quite a bit of time on working with their voices, on getting a little deeper into the characters, like giving them some layers to the performances.
The physicality and the origin of it is very much on the actors' shoulders, but from that point on, the animators' involvement in it shouldn't be really sold short. They add a huge amount of emotion and of physicality and everything to the scene. I think people will pick up on the uniqueness of the characters and the strong personalities that we put into them. And And I hope that you can still see through, even though we didn't use likeness of the actors, that you can still see some of their mannerisms and their takes on the villains or the heroes of the game.
You know your place. Well, I like that in the barber.
There's a convergence where the line between cutscene and gameplay is blurring, and it's a major goal for a lot of AAA games, is to have it as one fluid experience and not take the user out of the gameplay and really immerse them in the story and the characters and the universe that we've created.
We've all been through it. I got your back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, thanks.
Not again.
We really wanted 47 to feel like he was unstoppable and that he was reliable. So as a player, if you control him, you could rely on him to perform the actions you wanted. And that if you screw up, then it's because you screwed up yourself, not because you couldn't handle the game or you didn't understand what 47 was capable of.
We basically had to build up all the mechanics from scratch. So in a good way, we could then assess them and take things like very central features like the fiber wire mechanic, which was pretty iffy in all the games. It was, our fans, I think they refer to it as the dance of shame. It's like when you kind of dance around someone with a fiber wire getting into a crouch and up and trying to get into the sweet spot behind the guy. It's not, it doesn't make you feel like the most powerful assassin in the world. So it's okay, fiber wiring someone should be easy. It's getting them in the right spot that should be hard. And this was more the approach to the whole mechanic side, that you should feel like a great assassin, but it should be about containing the situations that is the challenging part of the game. So that meant that on the mechanic side, we had a lot of work that we had to do.
There's a change for all four. Ah, God, there's coffee in there, you fucker!
Throughout the game, you don't have your handler. You had Diana in all the previous games, right? And that meant that we could always tell you exactly what you needed to know. And in Absolution, he's on his own. So there are limits to what we can tell you. And if we want to tell you something, we have to introduce other characters like Birdie in the early parts of the game who can actually give you some information about what you're going to do.
So what brings your mean ass to my home?
And that means for all the situations, we really have to be careful about how we stage them and how we ease you into the different options that are in the level, because Diana won't ever tell you what happens in this game.
I need information.
Well, that's my business. Information. You need information, I find information.
At a price, of course.
And that was an initial pretty big challenge for us, coming to terms with something that's actually been a core part of the franchise for a long, long time. And now we had to stand on our own feet. And in that way, I think we were a little bit like 47. We felt a little bit lost at some time, saying, okay, the player needs to know this area. He needs to know that these are the options. He needs to know that he's going here and it's roughly going to end up in this place. But how do we tell him?
So listen up. Now the king hangs out in the pagoda in the center of town, where a unit of dirty cops guard his every move. And he rarely leaves the crowd, except to meet up with his dealer in a pad overlooking the square. He also got a swanky European ride parked in a nearby alley, but that's all I got, Holmes. So, call me back when you're done. Got it?
We had to make the guys in the world tell you a lot of stories about what was going on in their part of the world, or in the checkpoints coming up, or maybe even get your feedback on some stuff that happened in the previous levels. And now it's not just one handler talking to you, it's every NPC who could probably be saying something that you needed to know. And while that was obviously a big challenge to do at first, it also very much became apparent that it's a big strength in the game, that if you listen to the banter between NPCs throughout the game, there will always be something for you to pick up. Sometimes it's just fun stuff, you know, building their characters, but at other times it's actually stuff that can really help you solve whatever problems you have or make you understand the context of what you're doing. So we're really happy about how that turned out, even though it was a challenge in the beginning.
You going down? Wow, exciting evening, huh? Lots of heavy stuff going down. Heard it's all about one man. He must be a dangerous son of a bitch.
Defining the range of 47's abilities, and at the same time also working with the early steps of the AI, saying just how far do we want to push it? Because it meant that the AI also, it's a completely different way that they can communicate with each other.
It's far more realistic approach that alertness will propagate through the levels as it would feel more natural. If you raise an alarm by someone in a corner, they won't automatically be able to contact anyone else unless they kind of yell out or they call on their radio or they run to get help. Then you can still contain the situation and then progress through the level as if nothing happened.
So early on, getting really focus on responsiveness, making sure that he was nice to control, that you had a very, very good feeling when you control 47, and then starting to understand what does it mean to be unstoppable.
Are you a silent assassin? Or do you want to kill everyone in your way? Both require exceptional skill to master.
Well, I think at the core of everything Hitman related is the fantasy of being the ultimate assassin, right? And a big part of being the ultimate assassin is not necessarily to be the one who shoots everyone and then walks away. It's actually about performing the hit only on your mark, and the rest of the world doesn't know you were there. So that's a very, very big part of every Hitman game, and it's also a big part of Absolution's code of honor, if you will, that the best way to do everything is actually for the world to never know you were there.
Snowman!
But then, on top of that, there's the experimentation side where from that very smooth, very precise hit, you can transcend into madness, right? And the grayscale in between is actually where I also think a lot of the enjoyment of the franchise lies, that you try to aim for perfection, something goes wrong, and then you have to deal with all this stuff that happens. So I think the fans are looking for ways to try to aim for perfection, and then I also think everyone secretly hopes that there's also this room for error, which is also pretty fun.
When we first got in the lethal throwing feature, when you could throw certain props and they would take out characters, that became an instant hit on the team, and everybody was trying to see if they could make it through the entire game just with a screwdriver or an axe or something like that. So yeah, it's full of moments like that. You can play it however you want. There's a huge stealth fan base that we cater to. They want to sneak around and take out the target and slip away unseen. And there's also a large group of people that want to go in guns blazing and get into a huge gunfight with car crashes and explosions and buildings on fire, and you can have all of those things. And that's what I mean when I say it's very much a blank canvas for you to paint however you'd like.
One of the things we do on the team is that we actually get user sessions almost from the get-go. The second we have something playable, which we aim to do very, very early in the project, is also when we invite the first users to come and give feedback on what they're experiencing. The world is completely gray and you don't always know what you're doing, and still we manage to get a lot of good feedback from guys. Are we hitting the marks? What don't they understand when they play the game? What do they understand? What do they like?
Maybe they just want to chill,
They don't want to chill! They gotta get rid of the chill!
Whoa, freaking out, dude!
In the beginning it's more one-to-one sessions, really getting into the minds of people, and later we ramp up and we have more people coming in and playing. It's more a broad perspective, getting balancing right, getting the difficulties right, getting an understanding of different player types. So we invite old fans of the franchise who've been playing all the previous titles and know everything there is to know about 47. And we also get people in that haven't heard about Hitman at all, and then we get them to play it to see, okay, where is the barrier of entry? Is it too hard? Is it too easy? And we also know that we have a pretty vast range of expectations.
Well, every day he's yelling at me, yelling, just like my mom. Every time, I can't take it anymore.
For Absolution, one of the main areas that we really focus on is the communication part. Both because some of the elements in the game are quite complex. I mean, our AI is very advanced. It can do a lot of different things and it can be in a lot of different states. So that means as a player, how do we communicate this to you without maybe over-communicating a lot of different things or under-communicating so you don't know what you're supposed to do in a situation? It's always been about creativity and trying to solve the missions you're on in many different ways. And that means that we need to communicate to you that there is something to do, but at the same time, the real challenge is to not spoil it for you.
Hey, you know you can't park there, boys.
Yeah, and yet we did.
The technology that was made for the first Hitman game also laid the foundation for every other game we did up until this point. So it's only now that we actually got the opportunity to make completely new technology from scratch, which is called Glacier 2, which is what's powering Absolution, and it's made completely in fusion with the game design. So everything that the mechanics needs and the art direction and sound needs, it's been made custom for this game.
We had very high ambitions for Absolution, and early on it was also really clear that would require new technology to fulfill our ambitions with more complex, advanced AI, with more advanced crowd, and the production values, the graphics, the levels and all that.
You want the engine to be the editor at the same time, so you have the world and you edit things and then you hit play, or even you edit things while you're playing. And that gives a very improved feedback cycle.
It did allow us to, for instance, tailor-make the render to fit with the art direction. If you look at the very first concepts from the game, they're very much realized within the engine that we have.
But cover and secure the area up there.
So iterating on your level design and kind of game design is extremely important for us.
All right, you heard the man. Split up. It's good to see you. Think we can catch this perpetrator?
The alpha stage is the stage where everything comes together. You've done your pre-production, you know what 47 is able to do, you know what the AI is able to do, and now you start piecing together all the levels, building them first of all, getting all the assets in, if not polished, but they're in, right? So you know what people are saying, what characters are there, what weapons are there.
Hey! Who's screwing about?
This is the first time you really play it through and through, and also the entire game you start getting your horizontal slice where you get every level after one another. You get the cutscenes in, you start seeing how does the story fit with the gameplay. You see if you have some levels that need love in terms of intensity, or you can see that how they fit pacing-wise. So if you've been hard-pressed, as you know, in our E3 level, Run for Your Life, we really showed this, the police are now hunting you. After that, you also need a little bit of a breather saying, okay, relax, you're allowed in this place. We have a strip club, for instance, where you're pretty much allowed to roam wherever you want, and you have to do a hit as a pace change from being always chased by police. So that's the point in time in alpha where you actually start understanding the different elements, how they really fit together. Obviously, you know your ideas up front. I mean, we plan all this stuff and we talk about it, but that's when you see it the first time. And then we go into beta, which is about saying, okay, now all the stuff is in there. We believe we have the pace in the game as we wanted to. We believe that we have the different events mapped out as we wanted, and the gameplay feels varied when we look at the game as a whole. Every line of voice acting has to be recorded by real actors.
Birdie was right. He's in Hope, South Dakota.
And the girl?
She is not with him.
47's moveset is final and complete. You go into the details of the minute or by minute actions, or the sometimes second by second stuff.
Sometimes gameplay-wise, it kind of fell off slightly. So then we had to pull back and say, how can we kind of refocus the level into something that is more interesting to play and more engaging.
And for the AI, you know, how long they give chase. So how should that play out? Second by second, not just mechanically, but what is he saying? When does the voice actor start upping his projecting, telling you to freeze? All that stuff we start fine-tuning at this point.
Who the hell are you?
And then it might be something with the lighting. It might be that we need to add some rooms, even subtract some parts of the levels that didn't really serve a purpose with the gameplay that was changed. Also, since the AI is constantly evolving, there are also things in the level that might change due to the AI suddenly being able to understand more or see more. Then we have to maybe remove some characters because it got too difficult, or add new guards to an area because it got too easy, stuff like that. So there's a lot of adjustments to be done on everything.
So the kind of the polished experience gets to be there. That's also typically where the music, you know, both the generic music system that kicks in all the time, but also the individual level scores, they really start making it in, and you really get the appreciation of how is the final game going to look. At this point, it's about understanding the entire thing, the whole, if you will. So the connection between how the AI is working now, how 47 is working, how the levels are coming together, what the player understands at that point in the game, how good is he at this point in the game, you know. Because we constantly have to raise the bar a little bit, make the game a little bit harder. As you progress, you start understanding the game better, right? So at the moment, we're really trying to understand, you know, at what point in the game do you understand these concepts completely, and we can start playing with them or turning the tables on you. So balancing it and also saying, okay, we focused very much on one difficulty level, now it's focusing on all difficulty levels. So making sure that the experts really, really get their match, and also making sure that people who maybe just be there for the story, that they also get a good and meaningful experience.
Now, while we're in beta, it's much more a qualitative milestone where all the directors are extremely busy with the team, working, you can say, quality into every single moment and every single level of the game. We've also had new findings both from the team, and every week we do new user research and new external feedback on the levels that we also feed back into the backlog, saying that these are things that now we have to address. We have a number of levels every fortnight that we put into focus, and then from a direction point of view, we will set some high-level goals, and then during those 2 weeks, the teams in those levels will be working very closely with the gameplay director, art director, audio director, and myself in finishing off those levels into a proper beta stage. And then when that's done, we will move other levels into focus, so we'll get through everything in this kind of beta phase. It's a negotiation who has to cover certain kind of story gaps or transition difficulties, you could say. They would say, okay, the level guys would say, oh, we'll deal with that in the cutscene. The cutscene guys say, no, it's not going to happen. We can't do that. We don't have any facial. We don't have the scene itself. Whatever reason, it might be too expensive, or we don't have time. Then it's okay, fine. What do we do? Do we do it with the GUI? Do we do it on the level itself, just making a sequence that leads up to it? So these are all negotiations that we'll have to take with the team and finding the best solution. Of course, everybody just wants to make something that is great, so they're trying to kind of push themselves as far as possible, but I mean, sometimes it's just beyond the breaking point, right? And I mean, we also want a team that can survive the entire beta phase, and ourselves included. It's just wasting our time, you know, to claiming it fixed all the time. They have to check it in a build to see that it works, not in the editor.
I agree. And then general beta deliverables, you've got Pigeons Are Strange. What was that? Is that an observation or a task? Okay. Pigeons Are Strange, when you're a stranger.
Everyone is working long hours to make the game happen. It's a point in time where most of us are actually pretty tired. I don't know if I look sleepy, but most of us are actually. We spend a lot of time here at I.O. really trying to polish the game.
It's pretty tough, especially on the leads and the game management, because the management is in crunch throughout the entire period, while parts of the team might be in crunch at different phases, because their levels will come into focus, and then they will kind of work on the general backlog until something else comes into focus. So we're trying to find a way to not put too much pressure on every single person at any given time, but it is a very difficult balance, right? Because there is a lot of work to get through, and we need basically all hands on deck to pull through with this project. It is incredibly large and ambitious project.
It's also a period where the hard work pays off, because that's when we can seal off a level and say, now this is actually done, and we can see it for what it is, and that's a good thing, right? You see how the cutscenes are really conveying the story with emotion. You can really feel what the game is about, and then you jump into a level with a feeling inside that you didn't have before, and now the level plays out in a different way, and it's also not very buggy, it's pretty polished. So this feeling carries over until the next cutscene that now triggers, and you start understanding what is the experience really that we are building. So on one hand, it's a period of hardship, if you will, because we're really working hard. And on the other side, it's also a period where people start falling in love again with the game.
There needs to be a lot of exposure and a lot of, you can say, buzz around the game. And that's the kind of PR and marketing and sales part of it, but you can also say from a creative point of view, actually showing the game to someone external and getting feedback on that is extremely valuable for us.
E3 means a lot for any game that is being presented here, but it means especially a lot for Hitman Absolution, because the title was presented at last year's E3 and it was received really well, but we wanted to make an even better presentation this year, and we are coming with different types of codes. We're coming with the King of Chinatown, that is a hands-on demo. We are presenting the Sniper Challenge that we are releasing as a pre-order incentive. And we are also having a closed-door demo of the Streets of Hope.
For a game like Hitman, it's really critical for us to be exposed and to get a lot of coverage from the game, because it's such a big project.
We're here because it's the biggest show in the industry calendar, and it's going to define how successful we really will be. It's a great, almost litmus test for the press and for the retailers when they see your product alongside every other product. You know, they move around this show over the 3 days and they'll see everything the industry has to offer.
I think you have to be at E3 simply because that's where all the key influencers are. So you have all your key media, you have all your sales guys, you have everyone who may have an interest in your game apart from consumers are here. So everyone needs to be here just to show off the game, just to get a lot of buzz and a lot of coverage out of this thing. It is the biggest media event of the year, definitely, for anyone.
Last year was an amazing E3 for us. I think we kind of came a little bit of an underdog. People didn't know too much about us. We didn't know what we had to offer. I think we surprised a few people, winning 19 awards, 50 nominations, and in many ways it put us on the map. You know, the guys worked really hard to put that piece of code together, and we worked really hard to show it to people in the right way. You know, we did press events off-site on Catalina Island, and we really went to a lot of effort to kind of make our first impression a strong impression. And yeah, it sets a high bar for the second E3. You know, and I talk a lot amongst the team about how your second E3 is the difficult E3, you know, because it's the year where you're a known entity, a known quantity, and in many ways the press are looking forward to seeing new things at this show, you know, break-in products, brand new products. And when you're known and people kind of have an expectation about what you are, it's very hard to come in with the same impact and surprise and excite in the same way, and yet you need to. Again, as I said, it defines how successful you're going to be. So yeah, a lot more pressure and a lot more work, and we think really carefully about, you know, what do we show and how do we show it.
All right, so we're here at the Square Enix booth. We've got the huge screen here that's going to have the trailers on it. And then we've got all the artwork all over the place. We've got some customized headphones as well, which are really actually quite cool. They're still setting up now, so there's loads of people around, boxes and bits of tape and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, so this is the theatre. This will be showing a different level to what we've got out there. And we've got 2 meeting rooms set up, one with Tor Bluestyle, the game director, and Roberto Marchesi, the art director as well. They'll be in each room, and all the journalists will be coming back here in the next few days to have a chat with them, basically. I can show you the meeting room as well, I think. If you watch out for the cables. So you can see on here, we've got the little logo on the wall, so you know where you're going. And it's the most air-conned room you've ever been in. It's extremely cold. We've got the trailer running, and of course the seats there to sit in, and the same artwork on the wall as well. That's pretty much Hitman at E3 so far.
I have a little office in the back of the booth where I think I'll be spending most of my time in here. I won't be seeing any of the glitter on the floor.
The next few days are going to be extremely packed with interviews and presenting the code to journalists, and it will be very intense.
I'm going to do tons of live shows, IGN, Machinima, etc. Obviously just to talk about our new game. I'm really, really excited about that. Just the sound first with the microphones that are going to do that now.
Are you guys demoing the same thing that's in the presentation?
Agitated, looking for what happened, looking for something has happened, right? But I don't know it's you, so you can just go unseen out there. Yep. Agent 47 has been laying low for a while, and now he got this very personal contract. Now he works for the agency, ICA, and his handler is Diana. That people that know the franchise would know her, Diana Burnwood, and he actually gets contracts to kill her. This time, you know, a lot of fans have been asking, you know, it feels so good to be here right now, and also these interviews, right, to convey that it's still very much a Hitman game, right? So I'm almost trying to sell it to you right now, but I really feel it's important.
So we've got the awards that we've been given so far. Most of them are nominations from places like IGN, 1UP, Game Informer. And what happens is basically the journalists walk around the show, they take a look at the videos that they've seen around the place, and the ones they like the best, they give us an award, a nomination, and we're sticking them all up here, so when people come in, they can basically see how well we're doing. And we've just got another one from GameSpy, nominee for Best of E3. So we're ready to stick it up on the shelf. And that's our collection so far on day 2.
It's such a relief to be here finally. We've been working so much for this to happen, and to see it here feels overwhelming as a developer coming here and seeing your game getting that kind of exposure as like a once-in-a-lifetime experience for us.
One of the main things, as we saw when we went to E3 this time, is that we were coming and showing new facets of the game, and we immediately get reactions from fans and press, which is actually quite helpful and very encouraging to us to see, okay, how do they actually respond? So this E3, for instance, was the first time ever that someone actually got hands-on with the game. We allowed press to play the King of Chinatown through and through, replay it and replay it and replay it, and we know that they kind of loved all this, you know, finding all the different ways of killing the king. And when they get that experience, that's also what they convey to all the people who are watching and trying to understand what is Hitman Absolution about. So it's super valuable to us, and it's also very nice to get a lot of the good feedback we get from it.
The efforts from the Square team and the booth that we had and the kind of amount of pods, the amount of presence we had at E3 was phenomenal. And all the press that we met was really, really positive about. This was kind of our, what we call like the proof part of the campaign. We're proving this is a real Hitman game. There is the real choice that we always talk about. And that was absolutely hammered home at E3, which we were very happy about. Well, we're here in Cologne to show off the last missing piece of Hitman Absolution to the press, which is contracts mode.
There's a lot of journalists in here right now. I think 270 journalists from across the world, so pretty exciting.
It's super exciting for us. This is, we believe, what we call the exciter of the project.
10-4. Someone bring me the blueprints for this place, for Christ's sake.
You always need something new and exciting when you release a game that will make people talk about it. And we've been showing off things that are more or less like the old Hitman games, just kind of expand upon everything. But this is something that is completely new and hopefully something that will knock their socks off.
People loved it. I talked to a lot of guys right now and they're really surprised actually, like this is something new, this is something fresh. We really want to play that, so couldn't be better. And that's why we kept it, you know, as the last puzzle piece to add it on top of what's already awesome, right? So we're in a good spot right now and I'm very happy about it.
I think it's definitely one of the leaders in providing a cinematic experience, absolutely. I think what we pulled off for the cutscene shoot, I don't think has been done yet for games. The amount of actors that we had on set and the amount of footage that we recorded for it. A lot of the staff at Giant remarked while we were there that this was like a film shoot. The size of the script that we were working with and how we approached it was very much from a film sensibility.
It's quite amazing that some of the very early sketches that we did some, you can see some mood boards from the game that was quite extreme in the sense of it was very different from the previous Hitman games, and they were quite diverse. And those, looking back at those, there's still most of the, you can say, the energy and the kind of ideas inside is still carried through to the game until the very end, which also makes me very happy that we didn't really lose the kind of core of the new style that Hitman Absolution took from the previous Hitman games.
It's been quite a ride. It's by far one of the most complex games I've ever worked on. It's in its nature to be unpredictable, and I think that's been the main challenge and also the main point of why it's so fun to work on it.
At times where we are limiting ourselves quite a lot is where also the best ideas comes up, because we know if we have very little time or we have very little resources to do a specific part of the game, all these kind of alternative and interesting ideas come up and say, what if we did this and turn everything on its head?
I've enjoyed the team immensely. We've got an incredible group of animators working on the team. Going to LA and doing the shoot and working with the actors and the staff and just everybody there has been absolutely a highlight of my career. Learning so much from the actors there. We couldn't have asked for a better cast. Everybody was so interactive, and when their shot was over, they didn't just leave the set. They were there and joking with everybody, eating lunch with the whole crew, and it was just an amazing opportunity.
It's very powerful as a motivating factor for all of us working on the team to see people caring so much about the game, because it's, you can say it's a commercial product that has to be released and it has to make money, but on the other side it's also a piece of entertainment, and it has to entertain people and make them happy and challenged and
moved, hopefully. What I hope is that a lot of players get this experience of, okay, this happened, so now that happened, so now I have to do this, and then I hide in here, and then this happens, and I find this item, and then this happens. And that they really understand that at this point they are playing a game that is their own experience.
I think of it as a niche game, a game that hit the assassin nerve where you're the predator and you can sneak around in this sandbox environment and have different ways of taking out your opponent. And I don't think any of the other Assassin's games that have come up since, any of the other stealth games quite hit that just yet. So we kind of still have our own little thing which is quite unique for Hitman.
Really like it when I see people doing stuff they didn't expect to do in the game. So they have plans, something happens, and then they did something unexpected. That's the best part.
While you're working on it, it's basically nothing, right? I mean, the game is nothing until it's on a shelf. Then you can say it's just a dream, and it might be a dream that is more and more kind of actually being real. But unless it can actually fit on a DVD, run at the frame rate it needs to run, comply to all the TRCs, and being pushed through distribution and everything, then it's done, right? Then you can say, now, let's get on with our lives, do something new.